Hi everyone, I'm Mikael from Hike Beyond and today I'm gonna talk to you about one of the very best budget tents you can get at this moment. At least in my opinion. And of course I'm talking about the Naturehike Cloud Up 2 tent. I took this tent with me on various hikes for the last 2 years and it has been tested in various weather conditions. From harsh winters to scorching summers, this tent has experienced everything. So I think I can give you a well-balanced review about this tent, whether it's any good for you or not. Now know that I'm not affiliated or sponsored by Naturehike in any sort of way and I bought this tent for my own money. So yeah, let's get started. So this Naturehike Cloud Up 2 upgraded version is an iteration of the original Cloud Up 2, which is no longer for sale. This tent is specifically designed for backpackers and hikers who want a fairly lightweight but affordable and robust tent. This 2-person 3-season tent comes with an impressive list of features that promise comfort and protection in the great outdoors. Let's break it down piece by piece. Let's talk about the design and quality of this tent. The Cloud Up 2 is constructed with a 20D nylon fabric featuring a silicone coating. This choice of material strikes a balance between weight and durability, ensuring that the tent holds up in challenging conditions. The tent poles are made of aluminum alloy, providing added stability, so the tent is safe when there's a gust of wind or it's storming outside. Now, I have been hiking with this tent for the last 2 years. The coldest that I've been hiking with it is -9 degrees in the German Black Forest, and the hottest was about 32 degrees Celsius in the summer, also when I went back to the German Black Forest. And I must say that the tent held up quite well in both conditions. So I think even though it's only a 3-season tent, I totally agree with that, but for the more colder and harsher conditions, this tent will provide protection. I also think the 20D ripstop nylon is a very good choice of fabric because I've put my tent down on some very rocky and sharp grounds, but also on leaves with a lot of sticks and pointy things trying to poke through my tent. But the tent remains in perfect condition and my bathtub floor hasn't had any holes yet. So that's a very big plus for this tent. Setting up the tent is not that time consuming and pretty straightforward. If you ask me, especially when you're solo hiking, you can have this tent standing up in about 2 minutes, but I normally take 5 minutes. The way I set up the tent is as follows. You lay down the ground sheet, or in my case an aluminum mat. You click in the aluminum poles so the frame is set up. You lock the frames into the 4 grommets. You grab the inner tent and connect it into the 4 grommets. You attach the inner tent to the aluminum frame. You put the outer tent over the frame and connect 4 clips near the grommets. Use your guidelines to make sure the tent stands firm and voila, you're done. And this is how it looks once you set up the tent. So yeah, this is actually how I'm setting up my tent when I'm out hiking. I mostly never use the guidelines because I think it takes up too much time and it's not really that necessary. So yeah, I'm not setting up a pitch perfect tent. Just so you know, if you comment on it, well, yeah, I already beat you to it. I don't use the guidelines. So, welcome in my Cloud Up 2 tent. As you can see, this tent provides ample space for 1.5 person. I don't think it's a 2-person tent because, well, even though you can put 2 sleeping mats next to each other, it will be very crowded because, as you can see, the tent is prone to sagging a little bit. Of course, if I have my storm guidelines, set out properly, I'll probably have a little bit more space. But hey, still, when I'm out hiking all day, I don't want to do that unless it's really storming. So yeah, because of the sag, there isn't that much space. I think there's enough space for just me and my gear, because what I most of the time do, just lie down here like so, have all my gear charging up here, have my dry clothes over there, put my shoes over there in the left hand corner, and yeah, for me it's just enough space. As you can also see, it is possible to sit up straight in the stand. It doesn't leave a lot of space. I'm like 1 meter and 79 centimeters, so I'm not that tall of a guy. And yeah, I'm pretty broad, so as you can see, I still touch the tent with my shoulders. But hey, that's not a big issue for me anyways. As long as it keeps me dry and shielded from the wind, then I am okay. And this is how it looks from the inside. As you can see up there, there's a little net made for your gear to store in, like you can dry your socks in there or put your phone to charge when it's not too cold. Adequate ventilation can be a critical factor whether you will have a good night's sleep or not. Now with this tent, I think the ventilation is, yeah, it's not good, but it's not bad either. So the tent door is made out of mesh, as you can see, and it closes up really good actually. A big pro of using this is that you can ward off any mosquitoes or other insects. Like there is actually a spider crawling over my head right now. But yeah, it keeps the little critters outside, and it also provides a lot of airflow. Now, if you just leave your outer tent open, of course, there will be enough wind and cooling down. So I don't think condensation is that much of a problem in these conditions. Also, like the whole roof of your tent, at least the inner tent, is also made of mesh, so that's very good for the breathability and the ventilation. If it's very dry and just warm weather, there won't be any condensation in your tent, of course, because that makes sense. But as long as it's humid or it started to rain a little bit, the problem is there's just a little hole on the back side of the tent, and you shut down the tent with your outer tent. So that means that your ventilation and airflow is completely constricted because there isn't any fresh air coming into the tent. I have come to the conclusion that it still builds up a lot of condensation. When it comes to weather resistance, this tent has got you covered. The outer tent is highly effective at keeping water at bay. Also at extended rain showers, like I've been sleeping in this tent and it was raining for the whole night. And apart from the sagging, that's what you get with nylon, it was fine. There wasn't any leakage, the rain didn't come through, the seams were all dry, so the outer tent is just fine. Also, you have like the rain fly that will protect your gear at the front of your tent. I'm not a big fan of using it because I never sleep on a completely 100% even place, and I tend to have a little bit of inclination, and when it really starts to pour, then my gear will not be safe because water will find its way underneath my tent and from the sides, and my gear will still get wet. So this tent packs up fairly small, at least if your tent sack is holding up, because mine, as you can see, has been ripped to shreds. This is supposed to be ripstop nylon. Well, as you can see, it didn't stop any rips, and as you can see now, just with a little bit of force, I tear it up even more. That's too bad, because now I have to put my tent in a dry bag or something, or in some other bag to transport it, And yeah, that's where you see that this is really a budget tent. One of the key features of this tent is its weight. It weighs 1800 grams, and I know for all you ultralight hikers and trekkers out there, that is still very heavy for a tent. Even though it's not the lightest, it's still pretty lightweight for a two-person tent, and also for all the protection and cover that it offers. You can even leave your outer tent at home when you know it'll be 100% dry and cut some additional weight. What's included is your outer tent. You get your sturdy aluminum frame, the ground sheet, which they actually include in your package. You get the tent stakes, you get 8 of them, or your inner tent of course. And last but not least, your tent sack. Finally, let's discuss the price and the overall value of this Cloud Up 2 tent. Because at this moment it sells for about 150 euros on Amazon, and that is the 20D version. You also have the 20T version, which is 10 or 20 bucks cheaper, but I would not recommend it because in my opinion the 20D fabric is way more durable, and it's also a bit more tear resistant. So I would go for the 20D nylon version, and you might even get it cheaper because Amazon has a lot of sales during almost every period, so you might find one cheaper, but 150 euros is about the price range. And I think for a first tent that is a really nice price, because if you use it for more than 5 days, I mean, if you go to a hotel, every hotel nowadays is at least 100 euros a night. Well, do the math. With this tent you're cheaper, and you can always resell it on some marketplace or something. The pros for me are its weight, because the tent is fairly lightweight, especially since you still use a fairly big aluminum frame. The materials, everything is made out of that sturdy 20D nylon, which gives a lot of strength and durability for the tent. The price, of course, the price, I've talked enough about the price. I haven't come across anything cheaper with better specs and or features. So yeah, this is still the ultimate go-to beginner tent. Of course there are some cons. The cons for me are its condensation. As I told you before, in more humid condition the tent tends to get some condensation, and part of it is because that the outer tent tends to sag a little when it gets wet. Though it's not a deal breaker, it is something to take into the consideration. The setting up of the tent, well, it really requires some practice. Of course, that is with every tent the case. But yeah, especially the outer tent is not that user-friendly to put over your frame, and you still have to put it up 100% correct, or you will have a crooked tent with all the annoying things that come with it. And of course, the tent sack, it just feels like a very cheap bag, and it rips really fast in my opinion. So you either gotta be careful with it or put the tent in some other tent sack and or dry bag. All in all, this is the tent that I've been using for the last 2 years. I think it's one of the very best tents you can get, whether you're beginning with hiking and or camping or already have some experience and you don't want to spend hundreds or maybe even over 1,000 euros on an ultralight Dyneema tent. I know they're awesome, but if you don't have the money for that, or you don't want to spend that much money because it's crazy expensive, then this is a very good budget tent. With that being said, I hope I will be the proud owner of a Durston X Mid 2 tent in January, because I'm finally switching over to another tent. I'll do an extensive review on that one. I'm very excited about it. And this tent I'll probably give to somebody who really wants a tent but can't afford one or whatever. I'll make sure this tent gets a good second life. Alright, that wraps up my in-depth gear review about this Naturehike Cloud Up 2 tent. If you have any questions or you want to share your experience with this tent, do so in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe and check out my Instagram. And yeah, I'll just have to say goodbye and happy hiking.